What's going on, everybody? Jay Howe here. Patch 2.2.0 has brought us a brand new Demon Hunter set with the Unhallowed Essence, and this has opened up a wide variety of builds we can run. I'm going to show you guys one of my personal favorites that I used on the PTR, utilize the Unhallowed Essence, and some other skills as well to make this really strong. I'm going to go over the skills for you, some of the gear requirements, and some of the options that you can run. The Paragon points, then I'm actually going to show you in action just how potent this can actually be. There's another build out there using the Crider Shot and the Meticulous Bolts. Not necessarily the easiest one to obtain, so I'm going to go over something that's going to be a little bit easier to get to once you get those 6 pieces. For the gear, we're going to go with Chakram with Razor Disc, Multi-Shot with Full Broadside, Vault with Tumble, Marked for Death with Contagion, Preparation with Invigoration, Companion with Wolf Companion, and for your passive, Steady Aim, Archery, Awareness, and Ambush. Now, your main attack is generally going to be Chakrams with Razor Disc, and the main reason why is the Spines of Seething Hatred quiver is more important than ever because you're going to be able to do a ton of damage with this, and I'll go over that here in just a second with the gear so you can understand why. Multi-Shot with Full Broadside, this is a nice damage dealer and also will take advantage of your new set and a very nice thing to go with. Vault with Tumble, if you're like me, you like vaulting, you can easily go another direction with Smokescreen or any other number that you want to go, but for a little bit more movement, I tend to go with Vault and Tumble just to get out of danger. Marked for Death with Contagion. Now this is an optional one. Obviously you can go and tag and destroy stuff and be able to get that extra damage per enemy. If you want to go somewhat similar, if you're running this in Greater Rifts as the Meticulous Bolts build, you can actually run with Sentry with Polar Station and then do something like Take Your Ring and put a Bane of the Trapped in there and get that extra damage going there just for a damage increase. Preparation. Now this is another one you got to make note of for patch 2.2.0 with this new set. The more discipline you have with this set, the better off your skills are going to be. Now you're not always going to run this with all builds, but for this build in particular, it's very important, and again, I'll go over that here in just 1 second. Companion with Wolf Companion, just to get that extra damage in there. Very nice thing to have, that extra 150% damage, or that he does, plus the extra 30% damage that you get when you call him. Steady Aim, this is just a nice damage increase, and again, this plays well with your gear as well. Archery, because this one also does just a straight damage buff, very nice. Awareness, because you're always going to need a second life as a Demon Hunter, so you get that every 60 seconds as needed. Ambush. Now this is one that is a little different than you might be used to, but this is one that I'm very happy with, especially if you're keeping it casual and you're not running too high. If you're going to run into something like Greater Rifts, perhaps you go with something else. And if you are going with the Sentry Polar Station, maybe you go with Cold a Week, or if you're looking for more survivability, you go with something like Perfectionist or any other number of damage or safety increases there. For the gear, it's very important to note the set bonuses. Your generators also generate 1 discipline. In this instance, Chakrams is actually generating us hatred, or discipline. So it's very important to note that. The 4-piece bonus, gain 20% damage reduction, and deal 20% increased damage for 4 seconds if no enemy is within 10 yards of you. That's this little buff right here. Like I said, other skills that plays with, Steady Aim. This rewards you for staying within, or to keep enemies within 10 yards of you already with the extra 20% damage increase. This says, hey, we'll give you another 20% damage. Plus, we'll mitigate some damage as well. The 6-piece, your generators and multi-shot deal 15% increased damage for every point of discipline you have. That goes back to preparation with invigoration. That extra 15, multiply that by 15% per point, you're looking at a nice damage increase. Coupling that with ambush, I'm going to show you guys some huge crits right off the bat that's going to have you pretty excited for this build in this setup, especially the new Unhallowed Essence. Now, you don't have to have an Natalius here. I just happen to have one that rolled really nice damage. Any nice two-hander is going to run well here, especially if you can just run over here, go to your blacksmith, and craft, say, an arcane barb. It's going to be very nice. one thing that I do like, if you have an Ancient Calamity, then you're in good shape. I would probably run with that for a multitude of reasons. I actually prefer an Ancient one-hander if I can get the right roll. Having increased attack speed actually benefits this build pretty substantially, and I'll show you just what I mean here in a second. Now, that's just the weapon. Everything else is going to be pretty much in place. Now, I was running this for another build, but you can actually roll Chakram or multi-shot damage, and I would probably prefer Chakram damage here on your boots and your helmet. So you can actually roll that to get even more damage out of this build. Now, a couple key things to note. That 6-piece that I was mentioning, your generator's multi-shot, deal 15% increased damage for every point of discipline that you have. It's important to note that max discipline can roll on your bow, your quiver, and your chest piece, believe it or not. So having that in there, getting that extra damage, that max discipline, is actually going to be more important than, say, like a skill damage or something like that. So if you don't have it on there, weigh your options carefully. See if it's worth it to roll that extra max discipline on there, depending on what build that you're running, and keep that in mind when you are gearing. Having the gloves, shoulders, helmet, pants, and boots all in place with the chest piece is going to give you a nice 6-piece bonus without the use of a Ring of Royal Grandeur. One of the other big changes is the Bastions of Will rings. When you hit with a resource-generating attack or primary skill, deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. And when you hit with a resource-spending attack, deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. For Torment 6, this is going to hit so hard that it's not that important to keep both of them up. If you do elect to run this in Greater Rifts, it's good to note that you want to keep those both procced simultaneously by casting one at least every 5 seconds, depending on what route you go. A nice Witching Hour is good here, so keep your eye out for that, else any number of belts can go well there. Reaper's Wraps isn't really necessary. Going with something like Steady Strikers to get that extra increased attack speed that I was mentioning is another way to go, and you can actually go with a wide variety of bracers, whichever fits your play style. So keep that in mind, that the bracers are pretty flexible in terms of how you want to run this build. I just happen to have some with physical damage in place. An amulet that has crit damage, crit chance, a socket, and preferably physical damage for this build is good. If you don't have that combo, crit chance, crit damage, dexterity, and a socket is very nice. For your legendary gems, Pain Enhancer. This is nice because the way the Chakram works, especially the physical one here, wherever you shoot it, it starts to spiral out from that. So if I shoot it way out there, it actually goes way out there and starts spinning. So you can actually see it covers a very wide radius. Now that's going to be hitting multiple enemies, which makes Pain Enhancer a great option. Not only is it the physical damage there, but you gain increased attack speed for each bleeding enemy within 20 yards. This has a very wide radius, so you will be attacking and hitting things all within a very wide radius, so it's nice to be able to keep that procced. Now, I'm running with the Gogok here, more of an experimental thing to get that increased attack speed, but this can actually be substituted for any number of things, maybe a Gem of Efficacious Toxin, or any other gem there also. Bane of the Powerful is a nice second gem there. I would replace this as a third gem when necessary. So that's going to be it. There's a couple of key things. Now, if you're going to cut off here and that's all you wanted to see, thanks for watching. If you liked it, thumbs it up. That's going to be great. That is always appreciated. So if you're staying here, here's a few more tips when running the Chakram build. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out is a few maybe unintended things that you're actually going to benefit from. And I'll run in here where I know there's going to be some walls. Chakrams don't necessarily rely on the same physics as other items. I can actually run in here, and here you can actually see me take down some elites with just a few Chakrams. This is the part. If you're running somewhere where it has doors, your Chakrams actually go through walls. I don't know if they'll fix this, but at least you can go through and just say, hey, if there's something on the other side there, it's going to die. And so that's pretty neat. I don't know if that will be fixed, but it is something to keep an eye on if you're running that. Now, a couple things to look at that I was mentioning. You're actually seeing that I'm getting over 200 million crits. There was 180 million and several other things. That's the joy of having the Unhallowed Essence set with a lot of discipline points. Having discipline in the right areas, you can walk right in with Chakrams and just instantly start doing 200 plus million crits with just your Chakrams. There was a 275 in there. So having everything in place, you're going to find that this is going to be an extremely powerful build, especially if you're more of a casual player without the intense gear requirements of some of the other builds. Once you get this build, it's going to be very nice. Running this in greater rifts, you're going to want to keep your multi-shot. And I haven't even had a chance to show multi-shot. There you can see 300 plus million crits. Obviously you only have so much hatred, so you can actually use this kind of as your main attack to get stuff down, and then turn right around and start casting Chakrams again. Keep in mind you want to be able to keep that 10-yard distance to be able to get the most damage out of this. So keep that in mind when you are playing and going through. If you want to walk through, you can literally walk through, multi-shot everything in sight, and move on to the next group. Chakrams is a nice backup in case you don't finish it, and also to be able to generate the hatred once you spend it on multi-shot. So it's a nice thing to go through there. If you're looking to just walk in, tear up a bunch of stuff, and try out a new build that's not Marauder 6, then this is probably the build for you, and probably the wave of the future as far as running with the Unhallowed Essence. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and the build, and look forward to many more coming soon. There's going to be a lot going on in the very near future, and we'll go ahead and you'll see big crit numbers. That guy was hiding around the corner, else he would have been dead first too. More of them hiding around the corner, and this is what happens when you're in close. You don't crit near as hard because you're not getting that extra damage from steady aim and the 4-piece bonus. So keep that in mind when you are playing to stay ranged. The other item, I guess the best legendary gem here is the Zai Stone. You should probably run that now that I think about it to save distance. So that's it. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on all classes Diablo 3 related for patch 2.2.0. So if you're looking for more build videos or other Diablo 3 related content, be sure and subscribe for more of those. Like I said, if you like the build, if you like the video, feel free to hit that like button below because that is always appreciated and that's always nice to have down there. So keep in mind that this is intended for, you can actually take this into Greater Rift 40 Plus and feel pretty comfortable with it. I'm not sure if this is going to top all the leaderboards, but it is something, a nice change, a nice option. So I appreciate you guys watching as always. Till next time, happy hunting. See you again.